okay for our next uh, is Brother Goodwin is doing the special future for this morning.
That's wonderful. Yes, God bless you. Okay, uh, I prepared this presentation, supposed to be an info session in the afternoon, but I noticed that very seldom we have a time and people that is coming in the afternoon, so I prefer to present it, but I won't be discussing too much. Maybe just a glimpse of it, because we are gearing up to be a congregation, so we need to train some of our members, and we will start with this. I know Brother Ed is also doing some uh, preparation for like church decorums and other things. So this will be about how we greet our visitors, or the hospitality ministry of our church. But normally, hospitality does not refer to potlucks. These are the way we treat our visitors. As we need as much church that we have to clear vision to reach people for Christ, hospitality becomes a living expression of that vision. A great church welcome is not just about friendly smiles. It's about creating a culture, welcoming community, and an environment where guests can express the love of Christ from the moment they enter the driveway or the door of the church. Encourage our leaders and volunteers to talk about why hospitality matters. Hospitality is not about, as I said a while ago, it's not about potluck. This is why we have this information session. Don't just smile. Create a culture with a purpose. Every church had different cultures or different ways of expressing themselves or attitudes in the church. Because good first impression is a ministry strategy. We have different kinds of strategies to reach out people, but greeting is one of them. Let's start with the obvious. Walking into a new church is hard. It's how the matter-friendly hospitality team is, how good the worship matters, and how friendly the hospitality team is. A good worship, or how powerful your message is, if people don't feel like they are the first few minutes, they will never come to church. That's why the church ushers and greeters matter more than you think. They are not just volunteers. They are the front door of your church. They are the first smile, the first handshake, and the first impression that tells visiting someone you are welcome. You are safe here, and you belong here. Not all visitors, but all church attendees. Hospitality team sets the tone. When they are equipped well, they can create an environment where people don't just feel welcome, they feel seen or a part of the church. It's easy to treat greeters and ushers as part of the church operations. Open the door, pass the programs or the bulletins, point the visitors where to sit, where the other parts of the room, but that misses the point. The goal of the church greeter is more than just to welcome. They're sensitive to the spiritual needs of every person they come in contact with. Sure, they won't be able to help everyone, but they must know who can, or the process that in the place of the seamless efforts. No matter what your philosophy of the church worship, in your life of the church looks like, it's always biblical and beneficial to show love to people are walking through the doors for the first and the second time. In fact, it's crucial. It's very easy to come across to either religiously with in-your-face approach, but it's equally easy to seem uncaring or silence. Okay, some people just walk in without even people there at the back so silent that they even greet them. As you help believers learn how to show love to your new guests, here are some important informations or principles that we could communicate. Church greeter team is more than logistics or the process of planning and organizing. What they are doing is a ministry. You are the first loving touch every guest will meet. Okay, remember greeters? Which set the stage of the people to be open to life change. People will be more or less receptive to the teachings depending on how they are made to feel on the way in. Most guests will decide on the first few minutes if they will return, even before the music or the program starts. It's easy to walk into church if you are there every week. But do you remember what it's like walking in the first time when you didn't think you'd know anyone or wonder if anyone would want to know you as visitors? Number 3, the biggest goal are to eliminate awkwardness. Yung bang when you come to church, you are uneasy. Okay? And the second is to encourage people. Obviously, some first-time guests may not be comfortable with such forwardness. Some visitors have been coming to church for the first in their lives for the first time, but some come to church for several times or in different churches. Some are invited, some guests are invited, and some are walk-ins. They just pass by and said, "Oh, there's a church, let me go in." Okay? They are walk-ins. But they are still asking themselves questions like, am I following the rules? Am I dressed appropriately? Well, will I be able to find the rooms or the bathroom without asking? Those are some questions of guests to get rid of the awkwardness. Number 4, you are greeters. You are a tour guide to take people into their destination. You are not a travel agent who will send them there. Walking or accompanying parents with kids on the way to the worship room is far better than pointing fingers and saying, "The room is there, go and sit there in that area." Okay, greeters? Walking your visitors and guests where you want them to sit is much better than just, "That's where you sit. That's the room you go. Walk to the right and turn left." You are not a tour guide. Okay? Remember this as a guest. Most of the time, people are right there at the back. They just sitting there talking with each other. Okay? And sometimes they are lined up, making our visitors feel awkward and uncomfortable. Okay. Number 5, you have the ministry to encourage and even have to offer a brief silent prayer if it's needed. If you are sensed a spiritual need on them, keep it brief and don't make it awkward, but communicate that you care. I think one time we have visitors here that comes like a street guy. Yeah? So we just pass by and come to the church. Sometimes we say, "Oh, this guy needs prayer." So, but we have to be careful, right? And communicate that we really care for them. Everybody ought to receive a smile, a word of welcome, a loving touch, and a bulletin on their way. A smile disarms people and boosts their confidence. A word of welcome is commonly courtesy. A loving touch, as the handshake is a brief hug, might be the only loving touch that guests receive that week. A bulletin, at least in our case, is like a map for what's going on and allow the guest to respond the message in response. Okay. and information. So our bulletin will tell our guests what is going on in our program. Like when you're traveling, you need a map, right? So that is helpful. So we need our bulletin. And some guidelines. Guests or greeters and ushers, or in general, the hospitality team, show up on time and always be positive. Prepare yourself spiritually. Pray in advance for your ministry. That's why I think it's good that we have also a schedule for guests. Not just when you come, okay, you'll be the one. You'll be the one. Okay, as we geared up for as a congregation or a church, we should equip ourselves, our greeters especially, because that's the first person that makes our visitors feel welcome. Prepare yourself physically, good grooming, appropriate clothing, and sometimes, fresh breath will help. Be friendly to all who enters, not just the one who you know. Don't spend too much time with a friend as if you don't like them to sit down and join the worship. Just a little greetings and let them go in, or usher them to get in. Show honor and dignity to our visitors and guests. Treat them equally and make sure your team understands the church culture and differences. What feels friendly to one person may be intrusive to another. Equipping your team with culture awareness isn't just polite, it's essential and true hospitality. Pay attention to what needs our visitors and guests might have. Maybe if it's winter, they need to dry off, or they need to put their coats, or if they travel too far, maybe they need to visit the washroom first. Okay, make sure as greeters, try to observe what the visitors needs. Don't make them feel awkward and putting pressure by insisting them where you want them to sit. Give them a choice, but encourage them to be in the front. Observe and notice a ministry opportunity before our guests leave. Okay? See what ministry we could do for them. Make sure to have a sign of their guest book and a contact information so we could follow up. Follow up after the worship service and say a goodbye with a style. Sometimes you could give gift, maybe a reading materials or anything. That just say, okay, bye, see you later. Okay, be courteous. Every conversation, every wave, every quick answer to where you drive to kids, not just customer service, it's creating a space where people let their guard down, open their hearts, and are more ready to engage with God. Because let's be honest, people decide how they feel about your church before they start worship. And if we are created an environment that feels safe, familiar, and intentional, we are removing barriers that keep people from hearing what they actually came to hear for. Okay, equipping them to do what matters most. If we want our hospitality team to do more than just a smile, we have to show them why and what are the rules matters. Remind them regularly that they are not just door holders. We have to show our church or Adventist cultures. The goal isn't just to be friendly. The goal is to help people take their next step toward Jesus. So we have to train for that. Pay attention to the body. You have to pay, as greeters, you have to pay attention to the body language of the visitors. Teach them to walk the balance, warmth, and wisdom. Smiling is great, but be able to make the nervous guest feel at ease is even better. Remember the names and celebrate those returning guests. Ask for proper pronunciations of their names. It's polite to pronounce their names correctly when introduced. Sometimes our guests, the guest book we give to the presider during our worship. As greeters, we have to communicate to the people that will be introducing them later that this is how to pronounce. Sometimes the presider cannot even read their names. So it is your responsibility as a greeter to get their right pronunciation of their names, especially if it's foreign names. So it will be really good, and they will hear nice, and because their names are called properly. It is politeness. Another thing is scan the room. Know where the people are seated as, because sometimes some visitors walk in, they are invited, they come alone. They are not together with the person invited. So when they walk in, ask them, are you invited? Or they said, looking for people. So you know exactly where they are. So before the program starts or during this program starts, look at the room where the people started. So if people looking for someone, you know where they are. Okay? And practice. Don't just prepare. A theory is helpful. Practice is powerful. Remember when you guys are applying for a job or interview, you go to your mirror and say, you smile, you practice how you respond. Okay? So same thing, as greeters, it's best to practice yourself. Not only with a smile, but to say, how do you handshake, and especially what words you want to say. Sometimes the words that we tell to our greeters, to our visitors, are intrusive, not good. I remember one time, a member is not coming to church for a long time. Then he arrived to church, wanted to attend, and sabi ng greeters, buhay ka pa. Wow, that's a very strong word, right? So, as greeters, we have to really observe what we want to say and practice what we want to say. Give them the tools to win. Equipping your team doesn't end with the training. It includes a system. A group chat, different groups, we have a chat for the ministry, we have and maybe we could also develop, once we are ready for that, we could have a chat, separate chat for our greeters. So we could coordinate, maybe a phone call that you are scheduled today. Communicate clearly about who is serving, when and where. Build a plan of the following with other guests. Often a small touch that makes a big difference. Welcoming gifts, or maybe handwritten notes. Visitors don't just end up in the guest book. Communicate with the deacons, the elders, what I've said earlier, so that they properly welcome. When you combine training and with the right tools, you remove confusion and create consistency. That's when the guest experience goes from to intentional, and they could come back. A big welcome gift or maybe a handwritten notes. The first impression shapes the future decision of our guests. Here's what the most churches underestimate. People make their first mind about your church before they hear a single word of your sermon. And here's what even more important. They often decide whether they're return based on how they were treated. Okay? Our guests will decide whether they could come back and how they were treated inside the church, not how they were taught. A welcoming space builds trust, and trust opens the door to a truth. If someone lives in your church and saying, I'm not sure I believe what they believe, that's an indication that we lost, because they are coming back and it will be not clear to them. It's more than holding the doors. It's opening their hearts. The job of an usher or greeter is complicated, but it's crucial, because every worship service, someone is walking through your doors wondering if they belong. Even sometimes members. If you don't come to the church for a long time, sometimes, do I still belong to this church? Okay. And much more for the first time guests. And your team gets to be the answer for this question. Be ready of some short questions. And it's hard questions sometimes, just let them, we will discuss that later. Okay? And don't need a theology degree. They just want to know this. In creating a space where God can do, He can do what can only do. Equip them well, encourage them often, and remind them that greeters matters most. Your work as a greeter is more than just opening the doors. It's opening the hearts of your guests. As greeters, here are some tips that you should do. Okay? It is a responsibility of everyone, but I think it's one of your duties too. Number one, a bathroom sniff. Okay? Try to smell our bathroom. Sometimes it's not comfortable over there. So maybe we could tell someone, or maybe our cleaners or janitor or whoever. Yes, this is serious. Even before blown out over the uniqueness, powerful smell. You know that what I mean, right? What is the first room you clean when you're home, when you are expecting a company? Even in your home, right? You try. Oh, is my washroom clean? So we will also do that in our church. Create a vision by welcoming visitors. One killer of your hospitality ministry is when the congregation is not friendly as your hospitality team. Okay? Maybe we could have a very friendly, accommodating greeters, but the congregation is not welcoming. That's also important. They should be equally friendly, or the congregation itself should be as equally friendly as our guests. Maybe we have experienced professional greeters at the door and welcoming centers that gave the first impression, but chilly experience from the church members inside the sanctuary. In other words, the guest was welcomed by professional greeters. And another thing here, maybe a little cleanup so that our church will not be a hazard. Then organize and prepare and makes importance. So, thank you. I hope I make it really short and fast because we have a little time. And I hope we all do greeters in the church. Not only a special assigned on the front, but everyone should be hospitable in our place. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Goodwin.